Everybody. If you have any questions during the presentation, you could put them in the Q&A, or at the end, I'll unmute you if you raise your hand, and we'll allow you to ask your questions. Or if you need to speak to me sooner, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll try and get to you during the presentation as well. So I can get my technology to work. It's always fun. Okay. Can everybody see my shared screen? You can just throw something in chat or in the Q&A, that'd be great. Can you all hear me now? There's 2 Q&As. Super, great. Thank you. Nice to see and hear you too, Deb. Okay, so this entire presentation should take no more than 20 to 30 minutes, which will leave us plenty of time for Q&A at the end, where you can raise your hand or ask a question in the Q&A box. This webinar is also being recorded. Today's discussion is in and around the people section of the scaling up methodology, of which there are 4 decisions all companies must get right to grow and scale. And that's people, the right people in the right seats on the bus doing the right thing, a good strategy that's written down and documented and embodied throughout the organization, executing on that strategy, meeting rhythms and communications, and cash, because growth sucks cash. As well as in a downturn, you should have a good 6-month supply to survive and withstand the downturn. A little bit about me, and then we'll get right into it. I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole life, reaching for the stars. As you see, where I'm upside down on a skateboard in 1979, doing a handstand, but I like the caption above: climb high, climb far, your goal the sky, your aim the stars. I'm a United States Marine. That's my dog, Tucker. If any of you have been on a call with me, you've heard him in the background. And that's me jumping off a 35-foot pole. I am deathly scared of heights. There's a little tidbit about me. But I choose to be uncommon and uncomfortable. And my 2 daughters, I actually have 3 children. My son hates pictures, so he's not in this one, but that's Scarlett and Corinne. And I exited my last 2 technology companies in 2017. But enough about me. Let's get into it. Hiring in today's market is ever changing. It's not as bad as it was during the pandemic, but it's still a challenge. Do we work remotely, hybrid, in the office, or both? Do we have the right people in the right seats? People have jumped from one job to another in search of more dollars in the past. Or is it that they're looking for the right place with the right culture and a good fit, a place they feel that they belong? As you can see on my screen, this is also today's agenda. We're going to go over the right people, core values and culture, ways to get the best talent, what's in it for them. It's not always about us as owners. Find your perfect fishing hole. Be specific on your accountability. Know who your A, B, and C players are, and steps that you can take, action items that you can use. Here's a quick question, but something to really think about. Are all stakeholders happy and engaged in the business? And knowing what we know today, would you enthusiastically rehire them? And this doesn't mean just employees, but also means vendors, partners, and advisors. We walk clients through proven exercises that have helped thousands of other companies dominate their industry, all to answer this people question for their team. Today, I'll be walking you through a few of these tools. You ever feel like this guy? I know I have many times, constantly dragging everyone along toward your vision or your goal, and it's usually uphill. Or maybe you feel like this fire hydrant in your face with too much information or too many questions or too many things coming at you. Well, one of the biggest things that coaches can do to help companies grow and scale is by strategically changing them into this, where everyone is relaxed, having fun, and heading in the same direction towards the same goals and the same company vision. I love this photo because it also highlights how important it is to pay attention to the changing winds of the market. Hopefully the winds are always at your back, as well as everyone is working towards the same goal. This is all accomplished first by getting the right people in the right seats, doing the right things, and holding each accountable. And I'll say it again, right people, right seats, doing the right things, holding each other accountable. Hiring the right people and retaining A and B players, as well as a good set of core values, shared and embodied throughout the organization, allows you to create an amazing culture of people that just love working together. I always say that people that do what they love never work a day in their life. And if you get paid for it, bonus. But it's really more about the reason why, why you do what you do. It all starts with a good set of core values. Core values created, lived by, and passed down from the top to the rest of the organization. When hiring, look for candidates that embody your core values, keep them short, no more than 5. It's something that they can definitely remember, right? So if you have too many, then it gets too hard. It just gets clunky. Before you list your core values, you should be willing to hire, fire, and take a financial hit over them. So as we're going to hear in a video, Vern will talk a little bit about that. Knowing who your A, B, and C players are will give you a competitive advantage over your competition. Let's listen to Vern Harnish, Scaling Up, or the author of the book, Scaling Up on Core Values. It's about a 1.5-minute video.
All sports have rules, and that's really what core values do for your organization. They really...
Whoops. Sorry, my bad.
Set up those boundaries. And look, nobody would want to play a game if there weren't clear rules that define, and they're unique to your game, your company. And that's why you want to use the Mars Mission exercise that Jim Collins created, because they're going to be unique to your culture or cult. And by the way, that means that not all of them have to be positive. Disney, who I did work with many years ago, they actually, one of their core values is around controlling the experience. It's a very controlling kind of culture. And if you're not comfortable in that, then their immune system's going to kick you out. And then the key is, once you've done that initial discovery, you want to let them bake for about a year. Every quarter, you want to take a moment and say, hey, what are some stories where we've had a chance to live those values? And I know when we first did it in our own organization, our initial list of core values, there's one that we had missed. We kept having stories, but it wasn't represented among those values. On the other hand, there was one value that ended up just being a nice to have or a wish we had, but there were really no stories that supported it. It wasn't deep into our culture. And then we spent some time kind of rewarding them. If you want a great example, I want you to go out to Atlassian's website, and I want you to Google and look at their core values page. And you're going to see that they've got these really interesting, unique phrases that fit within their culture. Their descriptions are very instructive, and then they put together a really neat core values video. I think how they've structured their core values landing page is a great model for all of us. And by the way, it was something that Scott put together back when he had just 50 employees coming out of the workshop in 2005. I led there in Sydney, and they're still at the core of that organization 3,500 employees later. Good luck in getting these core values right.
As Vern mentioned, here's a tangible case study about how defining and sticking to your core values early on can really keep a team aligned during periods of rapid growth or a downturn. Atlassian makes software like Trello, Jira, and Confluence. Because they hired, fired, and were willing to take a financial hit over their core values, they grew from 50 to 3,500 employees and are still to date one of the best places to work. As Vern also mentioned, there is an exercise called Mission to Mars. I think he called it Mars Mission, but same thing, by Jim Collins. If you could take 5 people, just think about it, 5 people to create a whole new universe, who would you take? These people emulate the culture and core values of your organization. It could be Einstein, Jeff Bezos, a past president, or maybe it's someone you work with that just inspires you. Great exercise to do. It's important to know your team and understand who is your A, B, and C players, which we're going to get into in just a little bit. Hope will not create A players. Create the environment that A players want to work at and they want to be a part of. Coach up your B players and coach out your C players. They'll be happier for it, trust me. A players are serious about their work and being part of an A player team without drama and without dysfunction. So provide them the proper tools they need to excel and remove any obstacles in their way. Author of the book, Scaling Up, and creator of Entrepreneurs Organization, Vern Harnish, talks about A players and finding the right fishing hole. Let's give them a listen to this other short video.
Right now, talent acquisition is probably one of the hottest topics that our surveys are showing that are common with companies all around the globe. And I think it'll always be that case. If you can get the right 8 players, you're going to win. So what's the key? You want to fish where there's fish. And so it's important that I think every organization find a consistent fishing hole. I remember early on, Michael Dell said, look, I need key folks who have both engineering degrees and business savvy to really help run my factories. And so he ended up building a very close relationship with the Sloan School at MIT, got to know the professors, he spent time on campus, and he made sure that, hey, if they had a really, really sharp student, that he would be one of the first to be known. And so that was his fishing hole. I remember Christy Jones at the same time was trying to scale up Trilogy in Austin. At the time, Michael was hiring like 500 people a month. He was sucking up all the oxygen. And so she was in this building. It had this kind of cool rooftop. And so every Thursday, she set up this kind of event. It became the place to be and be seen. If you were in the tech scene, you had to go through her offices to get there. And that was her fishing hole, her place where she was able to attract and acquire talent. Early on, I had a student that was just in the carpet retail business, and she needed more salespeople. One of the keys is you don't want to poach from your competition, because not only do you have to train them, you have to untrain them first. And she really couldn't pay them any more than what her competition could. And so what we did is we looked at an adjacent industry. In this case, it happened to be shoe retailing. The top shoe salespeople in that industry could only make about half what they could selling carpet because of the difference in price. And so she simply said, that's going to be my fishing hole. I'm going to go out to the shoe industry. I'm going to put in kind of blind ads and say, hey, would you like to make twice as much as what you're doing right now selling shoes? And she ended up with this beautiful, consistent supply of salespeople that she could recruit. And they were absolutely thrilled that they had an opportunity to make twice as much. Equally important, she didn't have to untrain them. They came in with the sales skills, but she could teach her unique way of selling carpet. So find a fishing hole.
So true when Vern talks about finding your perfect fishing hole. And you want to find a fishing hole that has 8 players your company needs and deserves. Or do like the examples Vern gave, create your own. One company, CityBin, a trash removal business, put out ads to get fit while you work, get paid, lose weight. Just be creative, look outside the box. But kind of like the example of walking through the tech company to get to the top level and get a feel for who they are and what they're about. Showing 8 players you mean business solidifies your culture and bond with the A and B players. We as business owners have this internal fear that we will not attract the right person or make a bad hire, which is costly. But the best way to determine if they are committed to the company culture and core values is to make it part of the interview process. We recommend using tools like the talent assessment and job scorecard, which I'll get into in a second. But let me give you a real life story about my daughter, Corinne. She's was out of college for 3 years, and when she first got out of college, she got a job at GQ magazine as their only social media designer. So anything on Instagram, my daughter Corinne made. And she really loved her work, but she didn't feel inspired at the company. She didn't really enjoy the culture or, their core values for the most part. And she really admired this company, A24 Films, which is an up and coming, fast growing filmmaker that puts films out on Netflix and Hulu and other streaming services like that. And she moved over to this new company, A24 Films, not for more money. Maybe she got a little bit of a bump in salary, but it was more because the company inspired her. She really loved what they were about, and love their core values and their culture. And she's been there about 5 or 6 months now, and she's just loving it. Challenges her every day. Once you have your vision and core values set for your company, and everyone in the company knows them, hopefully they can also recite them. And of course, you found your fishing hole for talent. We recommend using a job scorecard on your next hire. You should use it for existing employees as well as for reviews of your. You should use it for existing employees as well as for reviews, what I'm trying to say. But as you will see in the following slides, here are some things you can do first before looking to hire. And sorry, I went backwards. I hate when that happens. Technical difficulty, we're going to call it. The job scorecard is essential in defining what is expected of the employee and what results, KPIs, or key performance indicators you expect from them, even down to the outcomes and the results. This should be completed before you go looking for talent to match this role. One of the tools we recommend for top grading new hires, as well as your existing team, is a talent assessment chart. You'll see on the left side, it has core values, a value of 0 to 10. There's 4 quadrant boxes, A, B, C, and BC players in the bottom right corner. And at the bottom across, there's the productivity scale, 0 to 10. To set a baseline, we use this tool with your existing team. As I explained in the layout, it's basically an access where you would rate them and then they'd fall in whatever quadrant or box they fall in. You just put their initials in there. But it really helps in defining it. A players live the core values and have a high productivity rate. They would score in the top right quadrant. B players might have one or the other, but usually are not very strong in both. C players should be coached out and replaced with A and B players. A players want to work with other A players. Use a talent assessment on your current employees to set a baseline. If you want more A players, ask the A players you currently have who they know. It's probably a pretty fair bet that they're hanging out with other A player type people. Put in the scores for each of them, add them up, and the higher number combined gives you your A and B players, for which you can define the action plan for the role and future planning periods. You might want to consider reviewing this quarterly or biannually or annually, depending on when you do your reviews with your employees, just to make sure everybody's, on the same page and things are getting accomplished that's expected. Coaching will enhance B and A players, but will not solve B- and C players. Coach up with training or coach them out. Here's another last short video from Vern.
Let me talk a little bit about onboarding and training. Now you've got this consistent pool you're fishing in. You've got a nice supply of talent. You're using the top grading methodology to do the selection. Now it's critical that you really structure something that properly first onboards people. And I remember Sapient ran into this. Stuart Moore and Jerry Greenberg, who became young billionaires back when it was difficult in the 90s. Anyway, they were back at about 70 employees. And one of their employees came and said, look, we're starting to lose the culture here. People are not really inculcated into the core values. And we're sending people out into the field. And it's the folks in the field that are having to kind of train people up over the several months. So long story short, she put together a boot camp, a 5-day experience, 1 day per each of their 5 core values. And I love what they did. Whether they had recruited a vice president or a frontline employee, you know how you all have these kind of niggly projects that need to get done inside the organization? What they would do is they would kind of batch those up and they would assign these to the newbies. And so you would have a project bounded, like to clean out the sales closet, literature closet over the next 5 days. And then in the process of doing that project together, they would review 1 core value per day. So by the end of the 5 days, a couple of things would happen. Several of the people that they had hired after going through that realized, hey, that's not how I like to do business. And it was kind of the last part of the interview process, and people kind of sorted themselves out. In turn, the majority of employees who made it through the 5 days really understood the sapient way that they did project management. And they really understood the core values and how they applied to the work that they were doing. So when they went out into the field the following Monday, they were almost 90% ready. And so creating a great initial training and onboarding process is critical if you want to hit the ground running faster.
Employees are your most valuable asset, as well as many times the biggest cost. Hiring and firing costs time, energy, and worse, money. Create a culture and an environment that people want to work at, like my daughter did, Corinne, at A24 Films. They didn't spend any money on getting that talent. The talent found them. And because she's my daughter, they're lucky to have her, of course. Stop managing and start coaching. Help your team by removing obstacles that are holding them back and create a culture and an environment that people want to be a part of. Managers should be coaching, not managing. Coaching a team bi-monthly or monthly. It is important to listen to them, be empathetic, make sure you are both on the same page for what they are accountable for and for what key performance indicators you're measuring them by. One of the tools we recommend for the entire team is the one-page personal plan. And that means the executive team all the way down to the frontline worker. Helping team members see their vision and writing them down is important to them. In the next slide, we're going to talk about the 5 F's and the 4 categories or columns across as well. Fill in each column as it relates to the 5 F's of faith, family, friends, fitness, and finance. As we go down through the relationships, achievements, rituals, and wealth. This is good for them to, not only put it down on paper, but also kind of get their vision clear, and it gives them time to think about these different things as they relate to each other. And, you might have a relationship with money. You may have faith in your relationship. So there's no right or wrong way to fill this out. At the bottom, over the next 90 days, what things should you or they start, stop, and keep doing to achieve their goals? Execs to the frontline workers. Wish I could speak today. To transition into a tangible case study about how leaders can enable your team's successes by considering the whole person, not just the worker. There's more to all of us, right? John Ratliff, CEO of Scaling Up Coaches, was the owner of Apple Tree Answers, a call center business. He did not set it up in a strip mall or in some dark operations network operations center. He set up his call center in a nice building with windows and good lighting. He bought everyone new ergonomic chairs, and he had empathy for their needs and comfort because they're sitting down all day on the phones. This brought his turnover from this company from 200% down to 19%, just by being considerate of the whole picture, the whole employee. For the management team, we use the FACE tool or the function accountability chart exercise to define the right seats for the right function and define the right results and outcomes we expect and agree upon. Who's accountable? If more than one person is, then no one is because they think someone else is handling it, right? Here's a closer look at the tool I use with my clients, executive and leadership teams to ensure everyone knows who is accountable for what, the function accountability chart. It helps management understand the current landscape of your company and your top functions. Having more than one person who thinks they're accountable does not work, and that means no one is accountable. I would do this on my existing team before even thinking about hiring. You may find that you have someone that would take on a function or a role and be happier doing it. Remember, right people in the right seats, doing the right things will transform your organization. The FACE chart is good for any organization, but it's essential for larger organizations. Do it by the numbers. List a name for each function in the company, column 1, then check each by the question number 2. Down at the bottom, you'll see identify more than one seat, one person in that seat rather. Number 2 is, person in more than one seat. And 3 is, do you have any empty seats? And would you enthusiastically rehire these people? You can learn more about top grading methodology and the FACE tool and the talent assessment by going to the book, by getting this book by Brad Smart called Top Grading. So here's some key takeaways, some things to consider. A players want to work with A players, and your A players who they know, or ask your A players who they know would be a good fit for your company, and you might get some surprising results. Consider test driving employees to see if it's a good fit for, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks, kind of like a temp to perm hire. Zappos requires everyone to go through a 4-week training program. Yes, everyone, from executives all the way down to the frontline worker. Use some things like Kolbe or DISC testing. This is how people take action. And this test can help you understand how people think and process information. Not everybody thinks or processes information the same way. Understanding how they ingest information and how they use it and how they think will really help you in getting the right players for that function. Find your perfect fishing hole, where good talent can be found or cultivated from, or create your own fishing hole, like Vern had mentioned. Complete a talent assessment and a job scorecard even before hiring, always before hiring. And A players have 4 key criteria. They have a strong will, a desire to excel. They have a good set of personal core values who test for the culture fit. They're results driven. They deliver on KPIs and outcomes. And skills. They have the skills to get the job done. Here's some books I would recommend that are really good informational books for running companies. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Great book. What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. And A Proven Way to Boost Morale is Getting Fish. And I won't give the book away. It's by Stephen London, Harry Paul, and John Christensen. But I'll just tell you that there was a floor in this one company known as the Toxic Waste Dump. The rest is history. It's not a very long book. I'd highly recommend reading it. It's really a great motivating story. Now let's open it up for questions, thoughts, and comments. And here's my information. Like I said, we all know it's hard running a company. It's lonely at the top, I always say. The view can be a little scary, but having someone else, an outside view, can help you see your blind spots. In one day, you'll also receive a short survey. I would appreciate if you'd fill it out. It'll take you just a few minutes. And now I'm going to stop sharing and open it up for questions. If you have a question, you can put them in the Q&A, I guess the chat. And if you would like to speak, just raise your hand and I will unmute you as well. No questions? Come on, you all know I'm not that good. Looks like there's some questions coming in. Can you have more than one fishing hole? Absolutely. Yes, you can. You can have as many fishing holes as you need. You know, you want to find at least one, but if you got 2 fishing holes, sure. And again, if you'd like to speak, you can just write the word talk and I'll unmute you. What are good ways to test a new employee? It depends on what you're testing for, John. If you're testing for, you know, how well they do the job, then you're going to want to do a skills assessment on them. If you want to test them for, are they a good fit for your company, you want to do a thing like a Kolbe or a DISC, modus operandi type testing, which tells you how they think, how they function, how they compartmentalize, how they ingest information, things like that. One from Mark. What was the list of core values on the chart Vern mentioned? That image, or is that what you're asking me? Let's see. So I'm not sure what you're asking me, but I will make this recording available as well to everyone. So you'll be able to see it again. Albert, do you recommend a variety of fishing hole types, e.g. academia, adjacent markets? Well, like Vern said, you want to find the people that embody the culture and core values that you're looking for. So in that instance, or the example he gave, it was all about, trying to find the right salesperson. Well, shoe salespeople, back in the day, I think we're always really good at selling you more than one pair of shoes when you walked in. So that's someone that really loves their job and works really hard at it. So that's why he used that reference for that one company. Mark Jones, a site. I don't know, Mark, if there is a site for core values. You could do a Google search on core values, but it's really a personal thing. Core values like integrity. Your core values might be that, the customer service is your top number one priority in your organization. Your core values could be, honesty. It could be anything. There's no set list and there's no rules in and around it. But for instance, I personally have one core value that I really love is I don't do work with a-holes. If you're not a decent person or you're not a good vendor or I don't feel I can have a good relationship with you, then I'm not interested in doing business with you. So I wouldn't do that. Okay, do we have any other questions? Does not look like it. I appreciate everybody coming and spending their day with me. Thank you very much. We got out of here a little early. Life is good. If you have any questions, you can reach me by going to www.4pillarcoach.com, the number 4. And there's a contact page where you can reach out directly. Again, thank you very much. I really would appreciate you filling out these survey that's coming out tomorrow. And have a great rest of your day.